Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Denise. I'm also known as heywigsister on Instagram and Facebook. Today I'm here to bring you a color spotlight. I'm here to show you what the color Salted Caramel from Renau looks like in a human hair wig, a synthetic wig, and a heat-friendly synthetic. Because color pulls differently on the different types of fibers, I think it's really helpful if you can see what it looks like in all three of them, just in case you decide you'd like to purchase one in a different fiber than the maybe one that you own in this color. So if you're curious about this, stick around. We're going to look at them all inside and outside. All right, let's get going on this color comparison because it is going to be fun to do, a little challenging, but I think super beneficial and useful. So the color we're working with in this video is Salted Caramel, and the code for that is FS, I always forget it, FS26/31S6. So we've got multiple color combinations going on here. So right off the bat, I want to remind you what one of the challenges is with color, especially dynamic colors with lots of different tones in it, is it can vary from piece to piece. So not only will this color look different on all three of these different hair fibers, but it will look different from piece to piece. So for example, on my head right now, I have on Renau Carry, which is a human hair wig. If you got another Carry, it isn't necessarily going to look exactly like the one on my head, especially in the areas where you see a lot of dynamic color and highlighting. I'm going to turn around for you and I'm going to show you what I mean, because there are some incredibly light blonde streaks back here. Can you see the different blonde, like, clumps of hair? How that looks on my piece may not look the same way on another Carry. So that is one of the things that makes color so incredibly challenging, is all of these variables. But I wanted to say that because I want you to take this whole video with a grain of salt and understand that I'm showing you what I can with the pieces that I have. But if you happen to have a different piece, you may be seeing some different things. Some more lighter hair in the front, some less lighter hair. You can see there's quite a bit of the blonde right up here in the front. It may not be placed exactly the same on another of this style. So those kinds of things are things to keep in mind. But what I think is a takeaway from this video is how these colors manifest differently, whether you've human hair, synthetic, or heat-friendly synthetic. I have done this before. I did a video on the color Caramel Ribbon by Renau, and in that video I used a human hair, a heat-friendly, and a heat-friendly synthetic. So you'll be able to see across a couple of different videos that I've done just how this all varies. So in this video, I'm going to show you Carrie, which is on my head. I also have Rachel, which is a a regular synthetic, hand-tied regular synthetic. And I have Ignite, which is a heat-friendly synthetic. So we're really going to be able to get a good sense of how this color varies. Before I do that though, I want to give a shout out to our wig sister, Sherry Schaefer. She owns a business, My Wig Coach, and she worked with me on this and helped me determine which color to use, because I have a couple of different Renau colors in other fibers, and I purchased this piece through Sherry. So if you are not familiar with Sherry, I did a small business Saturday spotlight on her, and I really would encourage you to check it out. If you're struggling with the wig journey, Sherry could be an amazing resource for you. She is not only a hairstylist, double-digit years hairstylist, 20 plus years with hairstyling experience owning a salon. She's a wig wearer. She suffers from alopecia. And now her business, My Wig Coach, is a consulting business working with women to find their perfect hair, their perfect wigs. Not only does she consult with you to help you determine what's going to be good for your face shape, educating you on some of the things to know about wigs, she can also sell a wig to you if you'd like. She is a retailer with all of these major name brands as well. So Sherry Schaefer, My Wig Coach, I will link that video in the description. I want to thank Sherry for working with me on this so that I was able to purchase this piece. And now here we are doing the comparison. So keep that in mind. All right, let's get on to the comparison. So I will be getting outside and showing you all of these on mannequin heads outside as well. But from my takeaway from having looked at these pieces and studied them pretty substantially, the order that they go in as far as depth of color, richness of color, and from darkest to lightest as far as how the color plays out is as follows. Regular synthetic. This is a much richer version of this color, and just comparing it next to Carrie here, you can see that. Much richer version, a lot more dark of tonally. This kind of the strawberry blonde. So we've got the color codes 30, 26, 31, and an S6. So the 6 is the root. So we have a 6 root. And I guess let's start right there. The rooting is dramatically different from piece to piece. The root is the darkest and the richest on the regular synthetic. When you get to the human hair, it is much lighter, much less kind of warm and rich, and a lot lighter. Can you see that here? I do get on top of the wigs when I'm outside as well, so you can see that outside, and I will take a bunch of pictures and tack them on at the end. So right off the bat, if you're familiar with one of these styles, if you like the root on it, maybe you want it to be exactly the same, that is going to be an area where it's going to vary. If you find on the synthetic it's much too dark, well, you're going to get to the heat-friendly synthetic, and it's not going to be quite as dark. And then you're going to get to the human hair, and lighter still. Ooh, I'm going to drop this. So we've got, first of all, the rooting and how it presents itself. Darkest to lightest to lightest. Synthetic, heat-friendly synthetic, human hair. Then you go with the colors, and so the color codes, a 26 is a golden blonde, a 31 is an auburn, a dark auburn, and so you've got blonde and auburn tones in here, and you can really see the difference. And this auburn is really on the darker side. When you get to the human hair wig, the tone is not as dramatically different from the blonde. They're much closer to each other, and it's a little bit more it's more coppery. It's more, I would say, a little bit brassy in the human hair than it is on the synthetic piece. This is a much warmer, much richer color. It's kind of the words I keep using because that's the way I see it. And you get to the human hair and it's not as rich, not as warm, and just a little bit brassier. And I noticed that on my caramel ribbon color as well when I compared them. The human hair caramel ribbon, much warmer, much redder, much brassier, very much brassier. And some of the things that I've learned over time, I haven't had a lot of human hair wigs. I'm really just getting into human hair wigs now so that I can learn about them. But I've heard from a lot of people, the color on human hair will change dramatically over time versus on synthetic. Synthetic, it's going to stay relatively stable. Same with heat-friendly synthetic. The color is going to stay relatively stable. I mean, it will change a little over time. I've seen that with wigs I've had for a long time, and then when I get a new one, the color looks a lot richer, but it doesn't dramatically change. On a human hair wig, this is going to change, especially depending on how I wear it and where I wear it. Wearing it in the sun is going to fade the color a little bit, just like it does in your bio hair. It's also going to turn it a lot brassier. It's the more red and the more blonde you get in it, the more brassy it's going to turn. And so you do have to be aware of that and possibly manage that with some UV protectant sprays that you would put on your human hair wigs, some shampoos that can tone the color. You know, they make purple shampoo, they make green shampoo, they make a variety of colors of shampoo that can help tone the color on the wig, and so you might want to consider doing some toning over time. Depending on the human hair wig you get, you may be able to color it, but you have to understand what kind of color was used on it. And in some of these John Renau colors, not their naturals that have an N on the color, but some of the others, my understanding is that they used a type of dye on them that is a bit longer lasting, but makes it very difficult to recolor the hair, that it doesn't absorb and take the color like you would expect it to. So just be really careful. I think it's called a textile dye. Be really careful if you do get a human hair and you plan to recolor it, that you do your best to find out what kind of dye was used the first time on it. So we've got these two, and then we've got the heat friendly compared to Carrie here. And it's even closer. So you go from the richer, more contrasting colors to something that's just a little bit closer. Still richer, and the blondes are not as brash. On this one, these blonde streaks look almost white in person. Very dramatic, very obvious. On these ones, you can see those blondes, but they're golden and they're warmer and they're not as bright and not as brash on either one of these. I did notice that's a big difference. Something else I've been told that can be a difference on human hair wigs is the more you lighten the hair, so you're stripping color out of it, the more that it'll impact the health of the hair. It'll also impact how it holds curl. And I do notice on this Carrie, let me take it off for you so I can be pointing it out as I'm talking about it. I do notice on this Carrie, we've got some really light pieces back here. So Carrie dries wavy. The hair texture on this Carrie and on two other Carries that I've had is it dries with a wave that you can really amplify. I have used a curling iron on this one. I'm practicing curling, so this one's been curled, but it can really dry wavy. And I've noticed these super light blonde pieces don't really want to dry terribly wavy. So especially this one right here, this thick chunk of light right there, wants to sort of lay straight while all the other hair around it is wavy. And even when I put curl in it, it didn't quite take the curl the same. And so keep that in mind as well. If you're going to go with human hair and you're going with some really lighter colors, you may find that it behaves a little bit differently than some of the darker colors. So that is something else that I've heard can happen. So why don't I throw this on a mannequin head and let's kind of take a look at them side by side on the table. All right, so we've got, hopefully you can hear my voice okay on this. We have got them side by side, and again, I've arranged them from the lightest to the darkest to the lightest. Darkest to the lightest. Synthetic, heat-friendly, human hair. And as I look at them, I can definitely see the tonal difference, the warmth difference. So you've got a much darker, warmer color in this regular synthetic. Then you move over to something just slightly less warm, a little lighter, a little redder, and then over here, yet redder, yet less warm, and that blonde really looks different. Let me push these two together so that you can kind of start to see that dramatic difference. These light colors are much lighter. These are much more golden. And that really gives you a sense of how they're different. Let's take a look at the top. All right, so we've got it from, again, the darkest, which is the synthetic over here, to the heat-friendly to the human hair. And you can see how this is just so much darker. And then you go a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter. Actually, I'm not sure if you can see. We're going to try a couple different backgrounds and lighting and see what happens. Alright, so that was just a little table look. We will get outside here and you can see these colors outside. I wanted to throw Ignite on so that you could see this color on me. And then I'm going to grab Carrie real quick and sort of show you side by side. And I will grab Rachel. I'll throw Rachel in at the end and then you can see it. Let's see if I can stand back here. Actually, I threw this on. I have no idea if the back looks decent or what, so don't judge Ignite today. Darkest, next, and then lightest. Am I centered? I really hope so, guys. All right. Hopefully that's good enough. Let's get outside so you can see these colors outside. All right, everyone, here we are outside, and it's a fairly cloudy day, so we don't have a lot of direct bright sunlight, but a good bright diffused light. So I've got them listed or sitting here in order of dark to light. So this is this regular synthetic. Right there is Ignite in the heat friendly, and then over here, this curly girl is Carry in the human hair. So you can see, I mean, out here especially, you can see the difference, and there's much more pronounced highlighting in the regular synthetic, a little bit more blending going on in the heat friendly, and not quite the depth of color or the contrast, even though there's still quite a bit of contrast, but even less so over here. So between this synthetic and the human hair, what I'd like you to look at is the difference in this richness of this auburn. So you can see how rich that auburn looks. And then you come over here and it's just a little bit less. And then over here, it's even more pronounced as that it's a less rich, deep color. And then when let's see if I'm gonna pause real quick and then stand up. All right, those old knees, we're not going to do that without major jerking. So let's look at these roots. So let's get way up here. And again, let me turn this one so the rooting is a little bit more obvious. So you've got this dark, sorry everyone, you've got this dark root. And then here on Ignite, while it's dark, it's not quite as dark. And then by the time you get over to Carry, it's so much lighter and it's barely noticeable as a root. See if I can. So definitely a humongous difference when it comes to the rooting. And now from the top, so we just looked at the top for the rooting, but now I want you to look at the top for these color gradations. So deep, rich, a little bit redder, less kind of an auburn, a little bit redder, and then more red tones. So this is a deep, rich, kind of brunette auburn. The tones are getting a little bit more red, and then even more red. And finally, from the front. So here we go from the front. So maybe you can come and get these. It's so windy, it's kind of hard for me to keep the hair sitting normal. So from the front, what I notice is especially when I'm wearing these, this regular synthetic over here on Rachel just looks darker on my face, and this one looks a lot lighter on my face. So richer, darker in the regular synthetic, a little bit less rich, a little bit less dark, and a little bit more red and blonde on the human hair. All right, everyone, I really hope that helped you as you start to visualize these colors and just starting to get an idea of how they're different. Again, you're not necessarily going to be able to judge the piece you get exactly by this, but at least you'll know that there's going to be differences depending on the type of fiber that the hair is made with, and that should hopefully at least help you to set your expectations on what you can expect. So I threw Rachel on so that you can see that little bit of a darker color, the richness, the more golden of the blonde that's in here versus the more starker contrast. And then kind of next to Ignite here, which just appears a little bit redder, a little bit less rich. I would say that they're fairly close. But if you love the super contrast between this one and the warmth of it, you're going to find it's not going to be quite the same with the heat friendly. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Hope that you found something useful out of this video, and I will see you in my next one.